Now we've had a little look at isolation mode as we've been working through some of the other exercises, but I want to run through some situations where it can be particularly useful and explain a bit more about it. For anyone watching this who hasn't seen the previous exercises, one situation where isolation mode can be really handy is when working with compound paths. Now if we have a look at this layer, you'll notice that I have this nice skull. And the skull is a compound path. If I switch off the background layer, you'll see that if I select that, that's one compound shape. Now I may want to adjust the eyes, for example, and just make them a bit bigger. And I don't really want to go with my direct selection tool and start selecting individual points and working that way. I could do, but it's a bit of a pain. So instead, what I can do is just come out of here, deselect that. So let's select the whole shape again and double click it. And I go into what's called isolation mode. And in isolation mode, I can click on the individual elements with the selection tool and make changes to them. So I could select both the eyes and just make them a little bit bigger if I need to, and maybe move them also if I need to. So isolation mode allows you to get into individual elements of compound paths. And that's one of the reasons it's so useful. To get out of isolation mode, you just hit the back one level button until you're back to your regular view and you can select everything as normal. Now if you want to follow along, you can open up isolationmode.ai, and I have another file here where I have this little character that I've drawn on separate layers for animating in After Effects. Now I want to colour this character, so I'm going to open up my colour panel. In fact, let's open up our swatches panel and load some swatches. So we're going to go down to Open Swatch Library, and we'll just open up the default swatches, basic RGB, and use those to colour our artwork. So I'm going to select a colour, and I'm going to choose to use the Live Paint Bucket tool. Now, if you haven't used this before, there's another movie that explains how this works. But for now, just select it. It's underneath the Shape Builder tool, so if you can't see it, click on the Shape Builder tool and you'll find it underneath. Or you can hit K to open it up. Now you'll notice that I've created a Live Paint group already. So as I hover over my layers, they start to highlight. So I can do things like start to paint them. Now, if I want to paint the jacket, it's fine. So I could select a colour for the jacket and start to paint elements from the jacket and get the jacket looking how I want it. But when it comes to selecting the tie, it's very difficult for me to do it. You'll see that actually I'm just selecting this square element on the edge of the jacket, which I don't want to do. And this happens quite a lot with Live Paint, but also with other things. It can be difficult to select the item that you want to work with. So what we can do is jump back to the selection tool and click on the shirt tie, and then right click and say Isolate Selected Group. Once I'm in isolation mode, it's much easier then to go and use the tools that I want to use to colour the artwork without other areas getting in the way. I can colour the jacket. I can then maybe choose a different colour for the tie and go in there and just paint the different elements of the tie using my Live Paint Bucket tool, and we'll choose a yellow for the shirt and just paint those elements in too. So much easier if I've got overlapping areas to go into isolation mode and paint those areas in. Now to jump back out, I'm going to just step back and come back out. Now I can also, if I do that again, double click to enter isolation mode and right click and choose exit isolation mode to exit. And of course that's useful for any areas where we have overlapping areas and it makes it difficult to make a selection. So that's a little bit about isolation mode and how and why and when you would use it.